Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. How important do you think it is to stop and celebrate milestones? Thank you for joining us today. 2017 was a very important year in the world. We were remembering Martin Luther, but here in Australia we were marking 40 years of the anniversary of the Uniting Church in Australia. In 1977, three denominations came together: the Congregational Union of Australia, the Methodist Church of Australasia, and the Presbyterian Church in Australia. Now, those three denominations came together to form the first church, I think you can say this, to officially and properly be created in Australia, the Uniting Church. And with any denomination around the world, the Uniting Church in Australia, of which Wesley Mission is a parish, has had its challenges, its adversaries, and its share of successes. Many works of the Uniting Church in Australia have brought about real practical changes in cities, rural and outback Australia. When I think of Uniting Care, Frontier Services and the Uniting Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress, they're just three examples of a positive impact that's been made around the country. We'll talk more about that anniversary later on when I'll be joined by Jim Mean. Jim has served in many areas of the Uniting Church, including being the first full-time moderator of the Uniting Church Synod, who's a layperson and had a very important role there. And in 2010 was awarded membership of the Order of Australia for service to the Uniting Church. We'll also be joined by Shani Russell, who'll sing My Life is in Your Hands. And I'll share some thoughts on prayer and look at the prayer of Jesus in John 17. Now, I recorded these thoughts in Bethsaida in Galilee in the region of the Holy Land. That was part of a documentary series that we're putting together for later in the year and for next year also. It's a very, very significant theme because we chose the Galilee because the Galilee is the place that Jesus came from. It's where his ministry was exercised in so many different ways. And so we want to focus on that area and say, what is it about that area that helps to shape Jesus' ministry? The stories, the miracles, the sayings, the things, the people, and the challenges and the conflicts. The series is going to soon be available, so keep an eye out for it. We'll keep you updated here on Wesley Impact. Now, as I mentioned, Wesley Mission is very much part of the Uniting Church in Australia. And as our name suggests, we came from a Methodist tradition. You'd expect that with a title like Wesley. One of the union of those three congregations, three particular churches that can work back to a very, very early days. And we come back to John Wesley himself. Our work began in Australia when the Methodist Church in 1812 began. And we're just 30 years old. And in many ways, we're very much a colony of the British Empire in those early days. And the first Methodist minister, the Reverend Samuel Lee, arrived on our shores while we were not known as Wesley Mission. And the work we continue today began. Wesley Mission's had a lot of leaders over the years, and just occasionally we take it a time to look back at that history. I'm privileged to be part of a succession of superintendents, including Alan Walker, Frank Raywood, William Taylor, who served at the turn of the century and throughout the time of the Federation of Australia. So here's a look at the history of some of those people and the people who've been called to serve as superintendent.
The origins of Wesley Mission stretch back to the first Methodist church established in Sydney in 1812. Since our foundation, we have been a community of hope and grace, providing care to those who are frail, lonely, disconnected and marginalised in Sydney and beyond. And throughout our history, we have been guided by a strong line of faithful, passionate leaders. 1812 was a time when liberty, grace and possibility were alive in the early colony. Convinced of the need for someone to guide them, the early Methodists wrote a compelling and successful appeal to the British Methodist Conference to send a minister to the new colony. The Reverend Samuel Lee arrived in Australia in 1815. In 1884, W.G. Taylor was appointed superintendent. A new word and deed policy was developed, committed evangelism coupled with serving the practical needs of the community. It was he who coined the term, a living Christ for a dying world. Taylor retired after 22 years and the Reverend P.J. Stephen took on superintendency. He was followed by the Reverend Samuel J. Hoban, who led Wesley Mission from 1915 to 1921 through the difficult years of the First World War. The Reverend H.C. Foreman succeeded him for a 10-year term until 1931. The Reverend R.J. Williams was superintendent for the next 6 years, serving as leader throughout the Depression. In 1938, the Reverend F.H. Raywood was appointed superintendent, leading until 1958, when the Reverend Alan Walker took up the position. A passionate and outspoken leader, Walker used the media extensively and attracted both praise and criticism for his dynamic leadership style. Into these shoes, the young Gordon Moyes stepped. It was in 1978 that the Reverend Gordon Moyes began his 27-year tenure of superintendency, overseeing the enrichment of Wesley Mission's media profile and continuing the strong word and deed ministry of Wesley Mission. In 1988, Moyes oversaw the extensive redevelopment of the old Lyceum Theatre in Pitt Street, Sydney. A new building was designed and built, containing a theatre, church, head office and conference centre. Gordon Moyes retired from superintendency in 2005 and Keith Garner took up the role, a position that he continues in today. It is remarkable to see how things have grown at Wesley Mission. Today, more than 2,000 staff and 3,000 volunteers continue in the footsteps of those who have gone before, caring for those in need and sharing the generous love of Jesus Christ without fear or favour.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
For Sarah, Christmas morning will be like every other morning. Her family does not have enough money for the basics such as food and electricity. Wesley Mission offers much needed support to help families like Sarah's, but without your help, we cannot help them. Your donation will provide much needed support and joy this Christmas. Please donate today.
So do visit that website if we can be of any help to you. You'll find our website to be intuitive, easy to navigate, and also informative in that it presents the history of the kind of things we've talked about Wesley Mission. The website address and emails on the screen now. I always like to hear from you. It's lovely to have those regular letters from people who watch the show. Keep writing, and new people, you write too, so that we can be in contact with you. Now, I mentioned the Uniting Church in Australia is celebrating 40 years anniversary, 2017. To talk about this and look at some of the milestones is a former moderator of the New South Wales Synod, Jim Mean. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the show. Why did the Uniting Church in the first place form? Why did it come about?
It took over 70 years to work through, but we realised that there was a lot in common and really a questionable place for being separate. I think the sad part is the Presbyterian Church still has some continuity, as does the Congregational Union. Mm-hmm. But it's been the best thing from my point of view. Mm-hmm.
And it came about over a long period of time, and then at the end, there's a lot of hard work probably went into that, wasn't there, to make it come about?
Definitely.
Yeah. Now you've had many roles in the Uniting Church. You're currently involved in a presbytery, leading a presbytery. I know that you're involved in frontier services. What is it that's unique about the Uniting Church?
I think, first of all, it's the first national church created in Australia. It's a church that stands up for the gospel. It stands up for social justice, which has been both a strength and a weakness, because you attract the criticism. It's also been very strong in working in a covenanting relationship with the First Nation people, mm-hmm. And very openly about that. Mm-hmm. Very strong in ecumenism, mm-hmm. the church, different denominations, and also interfaith.
So it's worked very strongly with the Aboriginal community, and it's had Certainly I'm thinking now of the Northern Territory and some of the groups that are there. Very strong Christian emphasis amongst many of those groups, isn't there, and a concern?
There is a very strong one, and we've been training a lot of the Aboriginal people to be their own ministers, which is not seen that much elsewhere.
So for you, your Christian story has been bound up in this journey of the church. What does faith mean to you, Jim?
Faith means my being. Without my faith, I don't think I would handle many of the situations I've been challenged by over many years. My faith also is deeply embedded in history, because the first James and Mina came to European Australia, started the Presbyterian Church in 1802.
Yes, you weren't around then, Jim, but you...
No, I'm the fifth version.
But you're
afterwards.
happy to trace that. Have they all been Jims?
Yes.
Oh, isn't that so? Isn't that something else? And there's a real sense in which the Uniting Church could easily be criticised by people. They could say, oh, well, look at the decline, look at this, look at that. But there's still some very significant work in difficult places. I know one of the things when you were moderator that you were involved in was drought situations, wasn't it?
Definitely.
And tell us a bit about that.
Well, we realised that in the drought areas, the drought actually accelerated rural consolidation. You're getting many small properties being bought by big organisations, attracting high levels of mechanisation but lower labour. Seeing the demise of towns that were under 5,000 population because there wasn't the employment, all that sort of thing. And the church realised that it had to support these people who for so many years have been the support to the cities. And they were struggling too with the development of more city-centric government policies, which left them out on the cold.
And the Uniting Church was often in some of these small communities, wasn't it? A small presence that maybe even some of the other churches were not there. We were there, weren't we? And that's important, really. And I know that's one of the passions that's led you to be committed to Frontier Services and the work that they do. Tell us a bit about that, because it's an important part of our work, isn't it?
Frontier Services was started as the Australian Inland Mission by John Flynn, so it's 104 years old. It's always been a passion of John Flynn and his successors to connect the socially isolated peoples of Australia, whether they're in mining towns, whether they're on large, substantial farming properties, in small towns that are really struggling to continue to exist, to actually make them feel socially included in the life of Australia.
And sustain faith for some people who perhaps may have moved there, left churches and find very little support locally, apart from those patrol ministers and people who call in and visit and provide the comfort, but also the teaching and all those things as well.
Definitely, and they had very significant contributions in the development of distance education with the pedal wireless mechanism for communicating with the farms, and kids were still on the farms. And
John Flynn was an amazing person, wasn't he?
Excellent.
Jim, thank you for sharing with us, and thank you for giving us that contact. It's a special year this year. We want to acknowledge that, and Wesley Mission honours the work and role of the Uniting Church here in Australia. God bless you and all that you seek to do.
Thank you very much.
So now let's welcome Shani Russell, who's with the Wesley Impact Band, to sing My Life is in Your Hands.
You don't have to worry, and don't you be afraid. Joy comes in the morning, troubles they don't last always. For there's a friend in Jesus who will wipe your tears away. And if your heart is broken, just lift your hands and say, oh, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand, 'cause no matter what may come your way, My life is in your hands. You don't have to worry. Don't you be afraid. Joy comes in the morning. Troubles, they don't last always. For there's a friend in Jesus. He will wipe your tears away. And if your heart is broken, just lift your hands and say, oh, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand. 'Cause no matter what may come my way, my life is in your hands. So when your tasks and trials, they seem to get you down, and all your friends and loved ones, they are nowhere to be found, remember there's a friend in Jesus, and he will wipe your tears away. So if your heart is broken, just lift your hands and say, oh, I know that I can make it. I know that I can stand. 'Cause whatever ever may come my way, my life is in your hands. With Jesus I can take it. I know that I can stand. 'Cause whatever may come my way, my life is in your hands. My life is in your hands. My life is in your hands.
Over the years of Wesley Impact, Keith Garner has had hundreds of conversations sharing stories of hope, resilience, love and the Christian faith. Perspectives on Faith and Entertainment is a collection of inspiring and insightful conversations with people who are leaders in their field, including former Queen of Pop, Deborah Byrne, pioneer songwriter Jeff Bullock, children's and country music entertainer Colin Buchanan, Golden Guitar winning duo Carter and Carter, seasoned performer and music mentor Daniel Kay, and renowned worship leader Darlene Check. Each conversation shares a unique perspective on entertainment and collectively presents a broad cross-section of performers and how their faith impacts their lives and others. Perspectives on Faith and Entertainment is the third instalment of a 3-part series and is available now from Wesley Mission. To find out more, contact Wesley Mission on 02 9263 5555 or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
I'd like to share some thoughts now on the prayer life of Jesus, and specifically that which we find in John 17. Now, this was filmed in Bethsaida in Galilee in the region of the Holy Land, where we were filming a brand new 6-part documentary series looking at the life of Jesus. You'll hear much more about that in the coming months as it becomes available. But I hope my first thoughts from this about the prayer of Jesus will give you some insight of that work. Jesus taught on many themes. One of the most significant themes, especially in Luke's Gospel, was his emphasis on prayer. In the Sermon on the Mount, he said that we should pray privately. He talked about persistence in prayer, keeping on and demanding through that lovely image of the widow in need of help. But perhaps the greatest insight in prayer doesn't come from the Synoptic Gospels, but from John's Gospel, where we have this marvellous intimate moment of Jesus at prayer. We've seen him in Gethsemane praying, but perhaps here, before we enter the Passion, just before we enter the Passion, we get to understand how he sees prayer himself. John 17 has been described by many scholars as the high priestly prayer of Jesus, where he is praying for various groups of people. But first of all, before he prays for others, he prays for himself. So the first section of John 17 shows us praying for himself, looking toward heaven, there is an action about it, and praying that God would glorify his Son, that he might glorify you, the Father. Something quite deep about that and profound. Understanding, if you like, that the blessing that is on him is a blessing he wants to return to the Father. And glorification is one of those great themes in John's Gospel. So firstly, he prays for himself. Then he prays for his disciples. He recognizes, and I don't think I've heard much said about this very often when people have reflected on John 17, he sees the disciples as a gift of God to him, the Son. And he thanks God for them. And there is displayed in the disciples, he suggests, an obedience as he prays. He prays that he knows all things come from God, and he prays for a quite specific prayer for the disciples. But there is a third group, and that third group is for all who will believe. Now, I suppose we can include ourselves in that prayer. All who believe through the witness of the disciples and those first apostles. Those who believe through their direct message for the world. And it seems to me that there's something rather wonderfully spiritually inclusive in this prayer that we cannot miss. And what is the content of the prayer quite directly? He prays that all may be one. So it's a prayer for unity. And this passage has been used many, many times by people who've been praying for people to come together and to be united. And what he says is this: just as he, Jesus, and the Father are one. Very often people struggle to understand the Trinity and how we can understand the uniqueness of Jesus as God's Son and Jesus the Father. Here in this prayer, we have something of that answer, giving us an explanation in direct relationship. Just as Jesus and the Father is one, so his prayer is that all will be one. And the reason why he longs for oneness is that the world might believe. The greatest witness that we can make is by being together as one. I'm very conscious when I come to the Galilee and I travel around that I'm meeting Christians from every kind of nation and persuasion in the world. And the prayer is that we might be one, because that will be our greatest witness. The prayer has an enormously long scope. And if Jesus prays that at that moment in time, it comes at a significant time because it precedes his arrest in John's Gospel. So before we enter into the Passion and all the suffering that comes as what follows his arrest, it comes as a significant moment. He will cross the Kidron Valley and into the city of Jerusalem to face everything that lies before him. But before he does that, he will pray for himself, his disciples, for the world, no, for us. Now, please keep an eye out for that series about Jesus in the Galilee. We filmed it over 20 days, working in the heat of the desert sun and along the shore of Lake Galilee early this year. Of course, we'll keep you updated. We'll let you know more about it, more about the series, and when it becomes more available for you to be able to share in it.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A 5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission, wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for your company today. I hope you found the conversation with Jim Mean insightful, remembering that special anniversary this year, and my thoughts on the prayer of Jesus beneficial. If you want to visit the website, we can be of help to you, I'm sure, in many ways. But if there's something that we can do particularly, don't be afraid to get in touch. You'll find our site is intuitive, easy to navigate. It's been all redesigned, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Also from our website, you can send me an email, let me know what you think about today's programme, and also follow us on social media. I look forward to seeing you again next week when we'll have another guest sharing with us on the programme. And we'll also have the great good news of being able to share the message of Jesus. And for those of you that join us regularly, it'll be to continue that relationship with us. And if you're new to the programme, make yourself a regular viewer. Thank you for sharing with us. May God bless you in all that you seek to do. And pray for us at Wesley Impact as we share the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Wesley Mission walks alongside people of all ages struggling with homelessness, addictions, mental health issues and financial stress. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.